Hello and welcome once again to The Theater Professor. This is Terry Dana Jakimiak II speaking, and I am the Theater Professor. And I want to thank everyone that has been signing up for the newsletter. We've gotten quite a few additions lately. I really appreciate that. And those that are sending me emails, I'm glad that I'm able to chit-chat with people about what I'm doing and able to answer questions for people who have questions. And today, what I want to do is I actually am going to talk about another app, something different than Procreate. And this is because I had a question come via email from somebody with the fabulous name of Terry. And no, I did not send myself an email. I thought about it, it might be interesting, but no, this is a different Terry. And the question dealt with whether or not I've used Artrage on the iPad and why I use Procreate, generally speaking, over Artrage. And so I wanted to look a little bit at Artrage today. As you can see, this is one of my pages with several of my art apps. I have quite a few, as you can see. They range anywhere from Artrage to Sketch Club to Sketches, Orient Ink. These are all things that I've downloaded over the past year and have used a variety of them in different ways. But we're going to talk about Artrage. Now, for those of you that don't know, Artrage is actually also a desktop program that you can get. The cool thing with Artrage is that it mimics natural media, which is very different than Procreate. So let's go ahead and let's get out of this. And we'll back to my gallery. We won't say that because that was just me putzing around. Okay, so this is when you open up Artrage for the first time, this is what you've got. Not with these images. These are all images that I've kind of played with over time. And the first thing that you'll see is there's several different menu items on the bottom. You can duplicate things. You can start a new painting. Well, new painting's up top. You can rotate pictures, etc. Down here, bottom middle, you'll see a trash. And you do have the ability to share, send it to iTunes, store online, send to photos, etc. You can even print painting. What we're going to do is we're just going to start a new painting, which is the top left here. And you're given this page, and this is where, it already veers off from Procreate. What you're doing here is you're actually choosing what paper you're going to be painting on. So if I hit the presets button on the left, it brings up a whole variety of papers from Canvas Basic, Canvas Fine, Canvas Smooth, and you can kind of go through all of these. Special light foil, for when you want to paint on foil. Even stucco, for those of you that are stucco painters. And we're just going to pick, we'll just go ahead and pick Canvas Basic. Usually I use the watercolor paper down here, but we're just going to pick Canvas Basic. Other things that you can do at this point is you can, for example, bottom right here, you can adjust the grain. And I'm not actually going to adjust it. I'm going to leave it as is, but you can see you can change that. You can change the roughness of the paper. You can change the color of the paper. We're going to leave it as is because it's a preset and I don't feel like messing with it. You can even, if you want, change the title of the painting. So we'll call this, oh, capital letters are nice, The Theater Professor. I know it's unique. I can't spell, obviously. There we go. Okay. And then there we go, The Theater Professor. You can change its dimensions if you like. We're maximum size for this is 2048 by 2048. We're just going to leave it 1024 by 768. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start painting on it. So if you just tap on the paper itself, it brings you into this screen. I know there's a lot going on right now. I'm going to close that to begin with. This is very different than what you see on Procreate. And the first thing you'll notice, the bottom left, I think it doesn't usually start on palette. Blade was the last thing I used. But if you click on that image, whatever that image is there, it opens up all of your tools. And this is where it becomes very interesting. These are your paint brushes. And each of them are different. You've got your paint bucket at the very top, which is very much just like a fill tool. You have your eraser. You have your, this is a, I believe it's a wax, not a wax, it's charcoal, not charcoal. And my mind just went blank. It's pastels. Thank you. You've got your wax crayon. You've got a marker. You've got a mechanical pencil. You have regular pencils. You have tubes of paint, which becomes very interesting here soon. You have roller. You have your palette knife, an airbrush, your watercolor, and your oil. And you pick your tool initially. So for right now, we're going to pick the oil tool. Now, you can change the different types of brushes. You see the little folder with the little icon on the bottom right. Looks like a little sun. If you click on it, these are some of the presets for the oil. Driest brush, dry clumps, everlasting oil. We're just going to start with normal round. Once you've got your brush chosen, you can come over here to the colors and choose your color. And we'll pick green. That's a good color. And then you can start to paint. And we're just going to do a little box. Just laying down some pretty colors. Okay. And I want to add shadow to one side of my box. And see how the paint reacts. It's like I said, it's a very different. If anybody's ever used Corel Painter, that's very similar to this. We'll do a really dark on the top. Kind of blends and mixes, and I'm going to zoom in so you can kind of see what it looks like up close. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Good news is they have an undo button. There it is. Okay. And then from here you can switch your brushes around. You can use, like, there's a thick glossy square. This is wrong paper to use. But see how, if you look carefully, it starts to fill in. Let me go to a lighter, maybe I can see it in a lighter color. There we go. You see the shadows so that it really looks like paint on the canvas, which is, like I said, what Artrage is trying to do is it's trying to emulate real world media, which is, again, very different than Procreate. You can do it in Procreate, but it's a very different way. So let's choose something like dry clumps. Let's see what that does. See, it even runs out. So I'm pulling my stylus all the way across the screen, but because this is dry clumps, I can't do that. Well, the title of it is. So one of the things you're thinking, okay, so we have all these wonderful presets, but is there any way to, kind of do our own presets? And you can adjust these. So the two cog wheels in the bottom left, if you click on that, you can see you can adjust size, pressure, thinners, loading, whether or not it's Insta-Dry, Auto Clean, Square Head. Okay. Now, each of these different mediums have different settings. So if I click on the watercolor brush and then click my cogs, we have things such as loading, color bleed, paper wet, Insta-Dry, etc. Now, one of the things that you notice is you can't change what the head of the brush looks like. And what I mean by that is when you go into Procreate, you pick the source, kind of like what if you were to just stamp it onto the painting. So it's different in that sense, is that you can't pick what type of texture is going to be built into the brush itself. Instead, each of these have their own texture that are already infused into it. So for example, let me pick, that's the pastel. And I'm going to go bigger. And the shortcut for creating a bigger brush is taking 3 fingers, putting it on the iPad, and then moving it up or down. So we've just moved up to 100. I don't know how big did it. There we go. So you see that? And again, it's picking up the texture of the paper underneath. Now, one of the things you won't see over here is you don't see a way to blend things. Okay? Well, that's because the blending's actually in the palette knife. When you open up the palette knife, you can choose from a variety of these. Well, why don't we pick heavy blurred frosting here? And if I come into my piece here, and that is our blending tool. Now, I'm not a huge fan of how it blends, or how the tool is used. I prefer to use smudge tools, and this one takes a little more. For example, this one's just blend color. So let's come up here. We're just going to blend color. We're not blending texture. I'm going to make this bigger because I can. I'm going to go in and we'll switch to, let's go to hard wet blender. And this is as if there was would be extra oil on an oil painting or extra water on a water painting. But you can see you can blur the edges and mix colors inside of it, etc. It's just a very different way than what Procreate does. There we go. Now we have no hard edges on that. Okay? And each of these tools does different things, like the watercolor, which is my main medium in real media. This is watercolor. Let's get a darker color. We're on way wrong type of paper for watercolor now that I think about it, so we won't see that. But I told you that the tube was actually really interesting. So if you pick the tube, it's as if you're just putting tube or paint directly onto your canvas. And then you can grab your palette knife. What we're going to do is we're going to do a full reset. Oops. A full reset on our palette knife. And we're going to start dragging paint around. It's as if you're using your palette knife to spread your paint. It's really cool, okay? You know, I'm saying that things are very different than Procreate, and they are. But what you're able to do with it and what it can create is really interesting. And you can actually then mix paint onto your palette. So I'm going to put down a little bit of blue. I'll put down a little bit of red here. Grab my palette knife and make purple. Right? Look at that. I want a little more red in my purple or more blue in my purple. Now that's pretty nifty. That is pretty nifty, right? And then, oops. There we go. And then if you find something that you really like, hold on a sec. I'm just mixing. See, I become a big kid when I'm doing this. There we go. Okay. So, and then of course you've got things like pencil. Let me grab my pencil. It's not going to draw real nice. Oh, it does draw kind of nice. So that's your pencil, and you have obviously you have different pencils, hard tip, soft tip. You know, You've got your mechanical pencils. Oh, actually, it's more. Well, you've got they're pens, technical pens, smooth inking, which I've never really played with any of these. And again, we're totally on the wrong paper. You have your markers, blending markers, hard tip. I'll just go with a hard tip marker at 100. And it's interesting because you can mix multiple medias here. So I'm using the pen, and I'm mixing it with oil paint. I mean, that's not something you can necessarily do in the real world quite as easily. Okay. And then if you really want to, you can erase everything. Got Insta Erase. You can't really erase oil paints either, so. Okay. So the question kind of came to me is, again, why... Oh, I didn't mean to save that. Why, before I go on to that, so there you do have layers over here, just like anything else, okay? So we can add a new layer. We can do all sorts of things to that layer if we wanted to. We can change the canvas settings of the layer. You know, there's a ton that you can do to create different things. Some of the really interesting facets here is this like post-it note with a pin. Let's import an image. We'll import, I actually did a drawing of this guy in Procreate the other day. And for those of you that don't know, this is a Cyberman. Cybermen are evil. But it essentially gives you a source that you can move around your painting as you're working on it. So I'll just grab pencil and make sure I'm on the correct layer. Okay. And I need a color that's not white. There we go. And say I wanted to draw him. I'm not really drawing him. I'm just making scribbles. And then I wanted to move him over here and look at something. I can blow him up a little bit. You know, it's like having your source with you as you're working on it. But it gets even better, because the other thing you can do is not only can you have that, you can have a copy of him below your layers. So if you wanted to trace him, so let's zoom in a little bit. Oops. Sorry. It's harder to do when I'm, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. As I break things, because that's what I do, I'm going to adjust the opacity because he's a little, there we go. And we'll get black there. So if I wanted to draw him with all my other scribblies, let me clear this layer. I'm just going to do a new layer. We'll turn that layer off. Turn that layer off and add a new layer. There we go. Now I can see what I'm doing. So if I wanted to, I could then trace him. And this is, you know, for somebody who's just doing maybe a portrait or something and isn't really interested necessarily on freehanding an image, this isn't bad. Cyberman. For those of you that know, I'm a huge Doctor Who fan and just watched the 50th anniversary last night because it finally opened up on Netflix. Was very excited. Spoilers. Okay, so you can trace them. And then the other thing you can do is, let me see if I can get it to go. Choose color from images. Let me show you that again. It's in this setting here. You can load image, clear image, convert to paint, choose colors from image. That's what we're going to do right now. We're going to choose colors from image. And then if I grab my paintbrush, we're going to do oil paint right now, and we're just going to do a normal round brush. We won't make it too big. We'll make it like, there we go. And you start painting. It is actually pulling the color that is underneath in the image. And I do very small, quick strokes for this. Again, this is not necessarily something I do often, but it is kind of cool. And I'll show you once I turn our guy off. He's a nice guy, though, isn't he? He's all like, oh, sorry, I just bumped my microphone. He's all like, I'm a Cyberman. Deleted. And again, doing very small. Whoa! Got a little too close to the top there. And I did it again. God, I'm epically failing right now. There we go. And you can do this with any of the mediums that you have. It's not reduced to only doing it with certain mediums. And then if we turn off the picture, you'll see that it's pulling up the colors from underneath, which is really kind of nifty, okay? And again, you can do this. I'm very much rushing through this, so you'll have to forgive the ugliness of mine right now. Oh, and I have metallic for some reason up to 70%. So I'm going to turn that back down. Oops, that's watercolor. There we go. There we go. Oh, and that's why you have all the speckling there. I don't know why. I must have hit it by accident. We'll come back in. And again, we'll do some painting. And it's really kind of a cool feature to play with. Like I said, we're going to go over all of this because I don't like the metallic. I don't know why. It was at 71% metallic. This is already looking 100% better now that I don't have the metallic on. So let's look. Turn it back off. Yeah, there we go. So you could see, and you could do a whole painting like this, okay? You could create the entirety in it, which, again, this is something that you could do, and it becomes a little bit of addictive. I would usually use a smaller brush in this area. I'm using a very big brush right now. So, no judging. I hear the judging in your voice. Why are you using such a big brush, you bastard? There we go. Cyberman wants to delete me. All right. That's enough of that. Okay. So, and you know, I've only begun to, you know, mess with this to understand, or not understand, but you know, everything that's available in this. This is one thing I want to show you here that I should have earlier. Let me pull two colors. We're going to mix a color, right? And so you get the exact color you want, like this bluish up here. You can eyedropper it, and then you can drag that. Actually, just click, there we go. Yep, added sample. So that way, if you mix a color that you really adore, so let's do this, and this, and let's mix it. I'm really coming up with some horrendous colors right now. There we go. go. So let me drag some of this in here. Maybe a little bit of a green. Oh, here we go. I don't know what's going on. But now you can eyedropper all these. There's one. There's two. And again, it's just a matter of boom. I've added it to it. Let's eyedrop this color. Let's eyedrop this color. And now I have a little mini palette. And you can clear those color samples once you're done with them. You can sort them, etc. You can even get rid of them. So if this program can do all this, why don't I use this over Procreate? Well, let me show you the main reason is because of some of the lag that happens. Like I said, this started out as a desktop program, and I've done the trial of the desktop program. It's a nice program. It's not something that I use right now, but the lag that happens because it is a desktop program gets really annoying. So if I have, for example, I've got a paintbrush chosen, and if I draw like that, okay, now obviously you cannot see my pen moving across, and so you'll kind of have to take my word for it. But oh, let me get a brush that doesn't run out of paint. Everlasting oil, maybe? Yeah. So when I'm drawing quickly like this, there's oftentimes lag in it. And this might just be my iPad. I have iPad 4. I do not have the newest version. So maybe they've gotten faster. And actually, now that I'm doing this, it has, as I'm looking at it, considerably sped up since the last time I really played with it, which that's actually kind of nice. I'm a little surprised and a little happy about that, as it does look like they've taken some time to increase the speed of the engine. The other thing that I don't like, and you saw it earlier, is I like to be able to rotate my canvas while holding my iPad. This does allow you to zoom in and out, though there is a limit of 800%. It will not let you zoom any closer than that. But you can't rotate the canvas, so you have to rotate your iPad. Now, this is not necessarily a big deal for a lot of people, but for me, I prefer to be able to rotate just my canvas. I can do it when I'm working on my PC, when I'm using Corel Paint or Photoshop, and so I want to be able to do it with whatever it is that I'm using. So that drives me crazy a little bit. Saving again. Now, as you can see, I have barely touched this, and a lot of this is so that I could bring it up to those of you that are maybe looking for another app that could be used for art or in conjunction with other apps. This is a good app. I will never say this is a bad app. The problem for me is that it doesn't necessarily have the abilities that I want when I'm doing my general artwork for my theater design. Now, if I'm doing just paintings, it's not a bad little piece, and I've played with some of the watercolor pieces, so I'm going to start a new one and pick watercolor paper so you can kind of see. It definitely does watercolor better than Procreate does. So let me pick a watercolor brush, and we'll just do dried strokes. So this is watercolor. I'm doing multiple layers on top. And this is really nice. My big problem here is that's 100%, so I can't make the brush any bigger, which drives me a little crazy. So if I want to do a large area, I can't. That's literally the biggest you can make the brush. There are other ones on here like harsh lines. See here, and here's where we get some of the lag. Okay, so to give you an idea, when you see it start moving, I have started, and I'm going to tell you when I stop. I've stopped. And so you can see how much lag is apparent when I'm doing that. And again, because I work so quickly. Now, if I worked, and this is really only the watercolor, I guess. A lot of the other ones aren't, but watercolor is what I'd use this for mainly. Let me see how big this is 100%. Yeah, again, it just doesn't go big enough for me. When I want to do a full wash of a page, I want to be able to do it without, yeah, just the lag drives me crazy. But it does mix pretty nice. See that? That's kind of cool. It's as if everything's still wet. Now, if I do it over this, it depends on which watercolor brush I'm using. I mean, that's really nice looking. Look at that. It does some really pretty colors. I'm going to grab the green here. We'll come in here. So there is some really nice things. Again, my big downfall is the lag. Drives me crazy. And again, the blending. So if I want to blend, I have to go into my palette brush. Then I have to choose, we'll use Hard Wet Blender. You can see here, it's as if I was adding water to the edges, which I've done, to create clouds or things like that in the past. All right. I think I've taken up enough of your time. This, again, was just a very basic introduction to Artrage for the iPad. We haven't even come close to touching all of the things that it can do. And if there's enough interest, I wouldn't mind starting a series of Artrage videos and going through each of the tools and what they can do, etc. But I have to see the interest first because it's not something that I use often. I'd have to start working with it a little more, which I don't mind doing. I like a lot of these apps. The other thing is I'm looking into Corel Painter right now. It just came out with a new version, 2015. And I'm looking at Autodesk's Sketchbook Pro as two computer-based items that I may end up playing with in the future and sharing with you guys. I do have the Autodesk Sketchbook Pro for the iPad, as you can see there, so I can always go through that as well. But there's just so much out there. I mean, I could do video upon video upon video and never get through everything. But again, if there's something Artrage related that you'd like to see, let me know, and I will put something together, a series dealing with specifically with Artrage. And don't forget, those of you that have been, I appreciate all of the additional new members of my website, thetheaterprofessor.com. Newsletters will come out. I'm still trying to kind of work on how often I want them to come out, so I will let you know in the future. But I'm starting to, we got enough interest now that I'm able to do things and share things with people on a little more regular basis. So that's really exciting for me. Again, and I think I've already said it already, my name is Terry Danijikimiak II. I am the theater professor, and I hope you come by soon.